Our movie starts with some Germans finding some Arabs in tracksuits trying to jump over the fence of the Munich's Olympic village. They try to make conversation with them, but the Arabs are unresponsive. They then help them over the fence and go their way, and the Arabs quickly take off their tracksuits and they make their way into the building. They then get their guns out of their bags and they say a prayer and kiss each other, and they force their way into a room and take the athletes inside hostage. A correspondent on TV announces the group Black September of the Palestinian Liberation Organization are demanding the release of 236 Palestinian war hostages, and it's the news of the hour. Security men get stationed around the building with their shotguns, and after a deal gets made between the terrorists and the police, they start letting the hostages out and are taken to the airport. All hostages get out safe, and it's reported that all the terrorists have been killed. But it's later found that 7 hostages have been killed at the airport while 2 were killed in their rooms. Avner and his pregnant wife watch the sad news, and she's afraid for him, but he reassures her that he'll be safe. The Prime Minister and a couple of Mossad officials are meeting deciding what to do. General Zamir suggests that they go to the leader of the terrorist group, and she says that it's time to show their power. Zamir shows up at Avner's and takes him to the Prime Minister and the rest of the officials. Although he's not a field agent, they want him to go on a dangerous mission. Avner's wife isn't happy but agrees to let Avner go. The next day, Ephraim, the case handler, briefs him on his mission, and his mission is he is to kill 11 Palestinian terrorists in Europe.
Wait, hold on. Did you subscribe to our channel? Come on guys, you're here, you're watching the video. Help us out by hitting the subscribe button, as it really helps out me and my team to make more videos for you guys. And now, let's get back to the recap.
He then gets on a plane, and over a flashback, the Palestinians were forcing the hostages and killing some of them, and one of the terrorists gets stabbed, and the rest shoot the stabber. In Europe, Avner picks up money from the bank, and back at the house, the other 4 men on his team are sitting around a table talking about each other's works and joking around. Hans has an antique shop, and Robert makes toys and bombs, and the other 2 are Steve and Carl, and none of them are killers but just ordinary men. Avner goes to an old friend so he could help him find the Arabs, and he introduces him to someone, and the guy tells him that one of the terrorists, Zahid, is there in Rome making a speech for his book. They go to his speech and keep an eye on him at a distance, and they all follow him to his house, and Avner and Robert shoot him. They drive off, and Carl picks up the shells once they were gone. Paris is their next stop. Avner meets Louis, another contact to find the rest of the terrorists. He then tells him to find them for him, and back at their house, Avner and the others watch the news that the terrorists hijacked a flight so that the Germans would let arrested Munich terrorists go, and the Germans agreed. Avner then shows them their next kill, Ahmud. In Ahmud's office, Robert is pretending to be a journalist, interviewing Ahmud and his wife. Robert then asks to use their phone to call his editor, and he goes into the other room and writes the number at the bottom of the phone and draws the phone's casing's area on his phone. But as he was doing this, Ahmud's daughter walks in and starts playing the piano. Later on, they break into Ahmud's house and plant the bomb in his phone. Carl asks Avner what Ahmud did, but Avner tells him to stop asking questions. Robert tells them that they will call the phone, and when the signal goes red on their controller, they blast the bomb. Next day, they get into position, and they make sure Ahmud's family have left. But right before they call, a truck pulls in, blocking their car. While they were distracted, Ahmud's daughter runs back to the house. Avner gives Carl the signal to call the phone, but Ahmud's daughter is looking for something in the house when the phone rings. She picks it up, and Avner notices the car waiting for her, and Carl hears her voice over the phone, and they stop the bomb. After she leaves, they call the phone and blow up the bomb, and back at their house, they sit to eat dinner while Robert works on some toys. In response to Zahid and Ahmud's death, the terrorist group blows up an Israeli embassy, and Avner realizes the terrorists know what they're doing. On the phone with Carl, Avner tells him that he's in New York and goes to Israel to see his child being born. He meets with his mom there and tells his wife to move to Brooklyn. He then goes back to Europe and tracks down the 3rd terrorist on the list, Hussein, and Robert makes a bomb to put under his bed in his motel room. They put the bomb under his bed, and when Avner walks out, Carl congratulates him on his kid. That night, they wait for Hussein to arrive at the hotel, and once he's arrived, Carl talks to him and makes sure he gets inside his bed. Avner turns the lights off in his room as a signal, and the bomb goes off. Afraid that Avner has gotten hurt, K1ll goes into the building and helps Avner out. After they leave, they fight over how strong the bomb was. They all blame Louis for not getting them the right bomb, but Louis denies this. Louis then tells Avner that they found 3 other terrorists that they want and that they're all in Lebanon. And he threatens Avner that if he finds out that he's working for the government, he won't help him anymore. Ephraim tells them that they can't go to Lebanon and asks them Louis' address. They refuse to give it to him not to compromise their mission. They then go to Lebanon and they wait by the side of the lake with their trucks open. A boat lets off a lot of men and they run to the open trucks and change into their disguise. Some dress in women's clothes and walk toward the security of the dock with Avner and the others as their dates. They walk to the checkout point and kill all the security guards and run toward an apartment building across the road. They kill all the terrorists one by one, and a car full of the terrorists' men wait for them outside and open fire on them. All of Avner's men open fire back, and his team manages to escape alive. This makes Louis suspicious of Avner. He tells him that his father wants to meet him, and Louis' father is the one that runs things. He blindfolds Avner and takes him in, and his father talks to him and Avner assures him that he's not working with any government and earns his trust. Louis then takes him back to the city and gives him another name and tells him that he's in Athens. In Athens, Robert starts working on another bomb. That night, when they were asleep, they hear footsteps approaching. They wait with their guns out, and the 4 men enter the house, and they all point guns at each other. But they agree to lower them and start talking. The new men came there because they were told that it was a safe house, and they all agreed that they won't kill each other. While the rest sleep, Avner and Ali talk outside. Avner assures him that the Palestinians are bound to lose, and Ali tells him that they need a home and they won't stop until they have their country back. And apparently, they are now sleeping with the enemy. The next night, Avner and his team go to their target's hotel. The hotel manager lets them into his room, and Robert puts the bomb in the TV, and Hans pays off the manager. Afterwards, they wait for the man to come back to his hotel room. When he does, they see Ali with him and their target goes to his room. But when Robert tries to bomb him, the bomb malfunctions. Hans quickly makes his way out of the car and runs toward the hotel with a hand grenade in his backpack. When Avner goes to follow him, he sees Ali and changes his mind. Hans runs to the man's room and breaks his door and throws the hand grenade right at him and it explodes. The manager sees this and starts shouting at him, and when Hans goes out of the hotel, Ali starts shooting at him and Avner and the others start shooting back at Ali and the other guys. And Hans takes the hotel manager with him into the car and K1ll shoots Ali as they drive away. On the drive, they were all uneasy about the unplanned attack and they all start shouting at each other. By morning, they give the manager a lot of money and leave him by the side of the road and flee in their car. Later, Avner meets Louis and Louis tells him Salome, the leader of Black September, is in London on the news and they're reporting some bombers that killed civilians. Louis points out Salome is working with the CIA in exchange for money. The team relocates to London and Avner and K1ll come back from following Salome. Avner tells them Salome has heavy and armed security and K1ll starts talking about the number of laws that they've broken. When Steve accuses him of being a double agent, he lunges toward him and the others get between them. On the night of the mission, they all follow Salome from a distance. After a while, they walk ahead of him and wait for him at different corners, but as soon as they were about to shoot him, some drunks distract them and he gets into a car and gets away. Avner, while drinking that night, meets a lady. He tells her that he likes her perfume and she flirts with him, but he tells her he's not interested and he leaves. He sees K1ll on his way out, and Avner asks him if he thinks the drunk men were CIA agents. K1ll says maybe and says goodnight to Avner, and Avner leaves. And back in his room, Avner calls his wife, and when she puts his daughter on the phone, he hears her voice and he starts crying. Seeing his condition, his wife hangs up the phone and he says goodbye. Over a flashback, the Munich hostages are getting into a car blindfolded to be taken to the airport. All the terrorists and hostages get into different cars and they prepare to take off. Avner wakes up in sweats and breathing harshly. After a walk around the hotel, he walks back to his room, and he smells that lady's perfume by K1ll's room. He suspects something and he goes inside, but K1ll was already dead. He shows the lady's photo to Louis and his father, and he tells them where she is right away. Avner suspects Louis was the one that gave her their location, and Louis shows him a picture of him and tells him that he's being hunted too. On their way to kill the lady, Robert tells Avner that he can't go and they leave without him. We then see Hans get to her house and kill her. There are now 5 left from the list they were given, and at dinner, Hans asks Avner if he will stop. Avner tells him that maybe they shouldn't. Later, Steve comes to tell him that he can't find Hans. They go looking for him and they do find him, but he was stabbed on a bench. When he gets home, Avner is paranoid. He checks his bed, his phone, his TV, his terrace. He locks his bedroom and sleeps in his closet. Robert, who was working on his toys, is bombed in his own house, and Avner meets Louis, and Louis tells him where Salome is. Avner and Steve try to kill him, but a guard sees them and they shoot the guard and run. They go back home, and Avner is picked up and taken to Ephraim. Avner is praised by this general and told that this was all he would get. Ephraim asks him to give him the name of his resources, but Avner refuses out of loyalty. Later, Avner goes to visit his mom. She saw how sad he was and consoled him, and she told him he did what he needed to do. And although Ephraim kept asking him to stay and work, Avner refuses and goes to his wife. And even there, he kept having nightmares. He sees people following him, he calls Louis' father and asks if he's being hunted, and Louis' father assures him that he won't do anything to harm him. He then goes to the consulate and threatens them, telling them to leave his family alone. One night, as he lays with his wife, the flashbacks come again, and the Munich hostages were in the car. The terrorists check the plane and figure out that they're being ambushed. They then get shot, and the ones that weren't shoot the hostages before they were. The next day, Ephraim visits Avner, and Avner asks him if all the guys they killed had a hand in Munich. But Ephraim tells him that they were all guilty of something. And this is how our movie comes to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, and most of all, subscribe to my channel. I love you guys so much, and I promise to see you on my next recap. Bye.